Greetings, travelers. We are here at the Macon County Library, and we're interviewing some wonderful guests today. I hope you all enjoy this show. We have several authors and historians and folklorists, so this should be a lot of fun. We hope you tune in. As a special thanks always to our Patreon members for allowing us to keep doing this. We appreciate you. Go to eerietravels.com if you would like to help. All right. Well, I'm going to let each of these folks introduce themselves, and then we can go from there and see how we do. So immediately to my right, but this is not a video podcast, and none of you can see that. I don't know why I said that, but we're doing what we can. So immediately to my right is Miss Kara from the Scottish Tartan Museum here in Franklin, North Carolina. So we'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kara Peace. I am the curator of the Scottish Tartans Museum on Main Street in Franklin, North Carolina. My background is a bit varied. I went to school for anthropology with a focus in public history, but I ended up working in healthcare for several years because of the COVID lockdown.
Oh,
Eventually, I ended up working back in history. I started making historical educational videos online and eventually ended up as curator of this really cool museum. And I'm super excited to be here.
awesome. Awesome. All right. And up next, first on my left here. So,
Hi, my name is Dina Bobnight, and I'm a career writer and author, and I freelance for magazines and newspapers all over the world. And I also have authored some books, and I've edited magazines and newspapers and started newspapers. So I have a lot of background in writing, and I love writing, and I'm about to do it for the rest of my life.
all right. Is it going to reach? I think it's going to reach. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Nancy Reeder. Since the second grade, I wanted to be a teacher, and I taught school for 23 years. But then I realized I was doing a lot of storytelling in the teaching to help the children understand, to find the story behind the things they were learning. And that led me then to stop teaching to be a full-time storyteller. And I had been doing that since 1998. Since then, I've traveled to different places around the world and found stories and have been having fun with it ever since. And just recently, I hiked the Appalachian Trail. Well, it was a number of years ago, 2009. And because of an incident that happened on our hike, I found myself wanting to write the book about it. And so I now have that book available. It's called Unsheltered Talk.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you all for coming out today. This is a wonderful event. I want to thank the local event sponsors and thank you all for having us out here today. And this is an amazing library. I've traveled all over the world and spoken at lots of libraries. Macon County Library here in Western North Carolina. Oh my gosh, this is one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever been in. So thank you all for coming. All right, now let's start. We'll go ahead and start on my right again, Kara. Now like I said, you've worked at the Highlands Museum or the Tartan Museum, Scottish Tartan Museum, sorry. And then that has some amazing artifacts in it and some incredible stuff. So why do you think that the Scotch Irish came over in droves to America in the day, and they seem to have brought some traditions here and all that. So why do you think that became such a thing here? And how does that tie into yours?
Yeah, there is a ton of Scottish and Irish influence in Appalachia in general, but we see it particularly in Western North Carolina. It makes a lot of sense when you consider that before the supercontinent Pangea split, the Scottish Highlands and the Appalachian Mountains were the same mountain range. So a lot of Scotch Irish immigrants started coming to the US in the early 1700s. They were leaving because of higher rent, a lot of war, battles, land being taken English, religious persecution, just a lot of hardship and for not having it. So there were several channels of immigration from Scotland to North Carolina. One of the ways was that the royal governor of North Carolina wrote to his spots back home and said, if you come here, I will give you a 10-year tax exemption on any land that you buy. And I think we can all agree that's a no-brainer. So, of course, many people came over. And when you are basically fleeing home for a better opportunity, it feels a little good to be somewhere that it feels like home, but you have newer opportunities and less hardship. And we see so much Scottish influence now in things like the dancing we do in Appalachia. The Scots have Cayleys, we have contra dancing. The Scots have whiskey and we have moonshine. So a lot of similarities in the culture. And actually, Scotch whiskey is aged in white oak barrels, which are imported from the US to Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could do that here.
So they could do it here. Yes. Lots of similarities in the culture.
Okay.
And the Scots have touched every corner of Appalachia in unexpected ways.
True that. I have a theater background as well. We discussed that before.
Yes.
And I loved when I was in England, went to the Globe Theater,
Mhm.
they said the Appalachian accent is probably the closest to real original medieval English and stuff
Ah.
because there was the huge, we're in these hollers and stuff, and they've never left. So their accents are probably closer to everything. So, what ho, my lord is probably what ho, my lord. But, I don't think that would play well there. But anyway, all right, moving on. Now you said you've done a lot of publishing, you've done a lot of building up magazines and newspapers and stuff. So let's talk about your latest projects here. Tell me about your new book and how it's and your world travels have affected this. All right.
Well, I have one wanderlust in my bones, so I've traveled all over the world for my work and for personal reasons, and I write travel pieces for some magazines and newspapers. And so I've been able to, especially lately, to see things in a different way. And I really encourage people who are traveling and writing or even doing art to kind of seek out different ways to see things, not to just look at what the tourists are seeing, what's on some of the different sites, but to really delve into what's behind the curtain, if you will. One of the things I write for one of the national magazines is called History Off the Beaten Path. And so, like when I went to Mammoth Cave uh, last year, instead of just seeing some of the different sites, I found out that there used to be a whole culture of people that lived there. And so I was able to write about that and what that was like and how they discovered the cave um, and just giving people opportunities to look beyond what's right in front of them. When I did some work on writing about Gettysburg, I learned that there were actually some women that were casualties of the war. One woman was baking bread for the Union soldiers, and she was shot through the house. And her family, they didn't want to waste the yeast and the bread and all the hundreds or dozens of loaves that they were making. So they kept baking the bread after
Yeah.
after their family member was killed. And a lot of people that article actually got a lot of interest because people are just fascinated with those stories. And now and the house is actually a museum where the woman was killed, so people can seek those places out. But my latest book that you mentioned is called Light Fracture, and it going along with what you do with kind of the eerie stories. I was doing a cover story for a state magazine about a lighthouse, and the island around it has washed away. But the mayor took me out when the time was out, and we had to hurry because we were afraid the tide was going to come in. And so we were going up, and it's a very old, very dilapidated lighthouse. And he started telling me the story about how a teacher was rowed out to the lighthouse to teach the students. And then she was rowed back to the mainland at the end of the week. And then it turned into uh, kind of a folk story about a woman who fell from the lighthouse and why she fell and the mystery behind what transpired. And so the book is 100% historic fiction in terms of what happened, but it's couched in the narrative of this woman falling from the lighthouse and the lighthouse culture and the teacher's story intertwined with that.
Yeah, always every ghost story has an origin, and we find the secrets behind them. So, all right, and now you, Miss Nance, Nancy had done the Appalachian Trail a couple times, and I'm sure your book is all about that. And I'm sure you've seen some unusual things on your trips, and just let's talk about some highlights, some things that were monumental moments for you. So, sorry, the wiring here is not built for this. Apologies to home.
But when we decided to hike the trail, I neither one of us liked to hike in the hot summer months. And then I remembered my cousin's daughter who hiked the trail southbound. That's what we decided to do. So here's a story from, well, you mentioned about other things. I'll just share this story.
Okay.
And if you have other questions. We had been on the trail for 4 months. We had just entered another state. I'm not starting it the way I planned on. We were headed to Harpersville, but we were then came to on a ridge top. We came to it was some kind of I'm sorry. Let me start.
No problem.
We were in Maryland when we came to a park, but it was December. And so everything was closed, but we needed water. We'd already hiked 14 miles that day. And then a car pulled into the parking lot. And as we were deciding what to do, 2 people got out of the car, a man and a woman. One was the local sheriff and one was the U.S. Marshal. And they were carrying a piece of paper with a man's face on. They asked us, have you seen this man? And we said, no. I can still see his blonde hair and blue eyes. They said he had been on the trail, and we asked, what did he do? And they said he was indicted for drug trafficking and he took off. And we think he's on the trail somewhere. Then they left. And there we stood, needing water and thinking we have everything on our backs that this man needs. But we had to go to the next shelter to see about getting water. And once we did, it was about 4 miles, we stopped and looked around and I checked the notes. Now, this was 2009. And at that time, everything was on notes and maps. Today, you can have an app on your phone that tells you exactly where you are. We're looking at it, and then I said, oh, it's a mile down this trail to the shelter, but then it's another half mile to the water down the mountains. And we both felt, no, we don't want to do that. So we decided to keep going. By this time, it was getting dark. We put on our headlamps. As we approached the end of the mountain ridge, which where the Potomac River was down below, we had to go down 16 switchbacks. We're going around the first one, and there were huge boulders behind us as we came around. And then we looked around, didn't see anything. Bonnie just stepped forward. He was in front, and I then moved beside up to him, and we heard it again. We still didn't see anything, but my feet were so close to Lonnie's, you would have thought we were one person. We continued down more switchbacks. Yes, we came to more switchbacks, and then Lonnie stopped. He said, somebody's up ahead. I looked around him, and I saw 2 eyes looking back as low to the ground. And then Lonnie kept going forward. Then I realized where he had seen that they were they had day packs, and they were 2 hikers, and the eyes were that of their dog. We stopped and asked if they needed help with any lighting, and I said, no, we're good. We went around, then continued down the mountain, came to a road, once around in the parking lot right beside the road. There was one car, probably theirs. Then the trail went into a little weedy section. We could hear water gurgling down below, but we were too far up the mountain, and it was viney and not good. Finally, I said, I have to stop. We just had to stop and rest my feet because we were now hiked about 18 miles and my feet were burning on the bottoms.
Yeah.
I looked and I got a snack out, it was evening, and looked at the notes. Oh, we have to go now down this far, go across river tracks. Then we're on a towpath. That's where the mules used to carry, take barges up the canal. We have to be on that for 3 more miles. I didn't want to do it, but there was nothing else to do. We went down, crossed the railroad tracks, went out on the towpath. Oh, it was flat, but my feet were still talking to me. Stepped a few steps, and I saw Lonnie ahead of me take his trekking poles and turn them up towards the side of the hillside. Well, some kind of grassy hillside. And then I looked, and there were 5 sets of eyes looking down at us. Both of us took off as fast as we could walk, didn't want to run. Lonnie happened to look back, and we noticed 2 of the eyes looked down. But we kept moving. And then finally said, I got to stop. And I just sat down on the ground, and then I heard something come butting up in the dried up canal area. I said, I'm okay, I'm good. And we kept going. Then I saw a circulating white light up in the sky beside us. And then I heard it was the light of a train from those railroad tracks we crossed. And that was way above us. And as it moved, I saw a man sitting with his dress shirt on, with his arm up on the edge of the window. I wanted to be up there with him. But we had to keep moving. The train then disappeared. Where'd it go? Finally, we came out to where the Potomac River was right beside us, about 15 feet away. And the moon had come up, and we could see the ripples of the water as it flowed down the ocean. You turned our headlamps off. And if it weren't for my feet, it would have been wonderful. We came to the bridge that goes into Harper's Ferry, where you can cross, and there's also a train that goes across. And then I discovered a train all of a sudden was above us that had pumped out of a tunnel. We finally made it to the Comfort Inn in Harper's Ferry with pizza and sodas on their way, and me soaking my feet in some nice warm bath. So we never did see the one ahead, and as far lies in the night, I'd rather than be in front of my car lights and any other time.
Nice. Nice. Oh, thank you. All right. Thank you so much. All right, Dina, you are a world traveler, and you have gone many places and done many things. Tell us a little bit about your new project. You said about that. Sorry, I forgot already. But you also have some story you wanted to tell as well, I believe. So about your novels in Southern fiction is huge now. I do a lot of UK programming, and they're teaching your stuff in a school, right? So that's amazing. Let's tell us a little bit about how that affects your work.
Well, I have always lived in the Southeast, even though I traveled all over. And my novels are very much Southern literary novels. And what that means is a genre that really focuses in on sense of place. And sense of place is a phrase that was coined by Henry David Thoreau. It really is about focusing in on letting a reader know all the sensory aspects of a place. So when they're reading it, they can really feel like they're there. The South has so many amazing places, whether it's there's oak trees that were dripping with moss on the coast, or the very dense forests of the rhododendron areas in the Appalachians. There's very much a sense of place. So I try to describe that. Wherever I go, I keep a journal so that I can write down ideas. And I think that the British are so enamored with Southern literary fiction because just for the same reason we're interested in reading British novels or watching British TV, because it conveys parts of a culture that they're not familiar with and they're fascinated with. So, the language, the dialect, the kind of the dichotomy of the stories of conflict and light and dark. Henry O'Connor said that the South is Christ haunted, and meaning that there's just a lot of different conflict with morality, and the history is kind of haunted, or has dark aspects of Southern history, and so there's a lot to write about, and there's a lot of interest in storytelling and characters. So my books have really tried to convey that. There's some mystery that's involved, there's history involved, and there's a really focus on sense of place and characterization. One of the agents that I had in New York, she wasn't familiar with the South, but after she read my first novel, which is Broken Shells, she said that she could not stop thinking about it while she would walk around the city of New York. She said she felt like she was there. She knew the place and she knew the characters. So that's like the best compliment when they're writing Southern literary fiction.
That's what we all hope for. That's what we all hope for. All right, Miss Carol, you are working at an amazing museum with amazing artifacts and lots of history. Um, I'm sure there are some tales you could tell about this location, and our listeners are big fans of those sort of tales. So I know this is what some of you are waiting for. So, all right, here we go. We're going to let Miss Kara talk about the museum a little bit, what you can find there, and then maybe some experiences you might have as well.
On the paranormal front, I'm so sorry, Mark. Our museum is totally ordinary.
Oh man,
No, I'm just kidding.
I
It's
totally
super,
blew
super
it.
haunted. As far as the museum, so we've got a full gift shop of goods imported from Scotland. We can have custom kilts created for people.
Wow.
We sell tartans, watches, scarves, ties, books, anything you can possibly think of. But most people don't realize that if you go through a little door, there are 2 full floors of museum as well. So we've got everything from ancient Scotland to tartan that's been to the moon, and an exhibit on why the heck there is a Scottish tartans museum in North Carolina, and a little of everything in between. But on the paranormal front, for those of you that are interested, we do have some ghosties playing about.
Yay!
And we've actually had some paranormal investigators in our museum several years ago. And we had 2 board members way back in the day who smoked. And these paranormal investigators, because our director kept smelling cigarette smoke downstairs and nobody on staff was a smoker at the time. So it was a total mystery. These paranormal investigators asked 2 former board members who did smoke, who were at this time deceased, asked one of them, "Have you been smoking downstairs in the museum?" Said, "No, it wasn't me." And then they asked the other one, "Were you smoking downstairs in the museum?" And he said, "Yes, it was me."
Okay.
So our director has always wondered, well, then where was he getting his cigarettes? So that's one thing. We've also had people see orbs floating around, that kind of thing. Things flying off the walls, not
Okay.
just falling, but flying, 6 to 8 feet away, that kind of thing. And a few months ago, our director saw a figure walk by and then disappear into the wall. No idea on who that was, why they were there, but that happened. Our building is very, very old, built in the 1800s, and there have been a few fires, 2 or 3, I think. And one of the ghost tour companies in town, they said that they have seen burning figures outside the museum. So that's another one.
That's new.
And that's new. Yeah. And then I had a very spooky experience a
That's
few weeks ago.
just a few weeks ago.
A few
New. That's
weeks ago,
great.
really recent. And I thought I was crazy when this happened. So I was downstairs in the museum turning off all the lights for the night. It's very spooky down there, stone walls, old building.
Right.
It's dark. There are mannequins. Okay. It's spooky. And
It's
I was
spooky in the daylight, folks. It's
it's
really nice.
right.
Yeah.
So I was turning off all the lights, and before I had all the lights off, I swear I saw a figure walk across the room into the glass case of the mannequin. And in that glass case is one of our oldest kilts in the museum. So I got a little chill up my spine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I definitely had some dreams about it that night,
Yeah.
some spooky dreams. But yes, you are in for some eerie treats if you come to the museum,
Our-
and you'll maybe learn a little about history along the way, hopefully.
Well, sadly, our time is running low. So I'm going to have all of you say where they can follow you, or where they can find you, and where they can find your books. And make sure, because we always say this, always be plugging. So plug your books and all that. And all right, so we'll start at you again, Kara, and we'll hand it down. So since you just told that wonderful story, let's where can they find you and the museum?
Yes, we are Scottish Tartans Museum or Scottish Tartans Museum and Heritage Center on every social platform. We're working on having more of an online presence. You can also find me at History with Kara everywhere.
Nice, thank you. And then Miss Dina.
You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Dina Baucknight Writing. And my name is Dina, Deena, and Baucknight was Bouknight. I also have a website, and it's www.dinabaucknightwriting.com. Light Fracture is an audiobook, ebook, and printed book, and then I have others. So all those are on my website. Thank you.
I'm Nancy Reeder, and you can find me online. My website is nancyreeder.com. That's Reeder. And I'm also on Facebook. I'm not always on there as much as I'd like to be, but I am going to be posting more photos, some more hype, and more information to know what's going on with me. I also do Grandma Gatewood, as she was the first woman to walk the entire Appalachian Trail by herself, and I become her and share her story. So you can check things out on my website. That's the best way to find out.
And what's your
Thank you.
latest book? What was your
And
latest?
my book is called Unsheltered, and it's available at all sites. You just better go online by Nancy J. Reeder. It is Nancy J. Reeder, and you'll check it out.
All right.
And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Oh yeah, I wish we had more time. I would love to have each of you on the show at some point, just to do a whole episode. I'm sure our listeners at home, our travelers, would love that. Again, thank you all for indulging us with this. Thank you, Macon County Library. Thank you, Ms. Anita, for putting on this amazing show. It's been a lot of fun. And gang, when you're out there in the woods or out there traveling, keep your eyes open. Watch for eyes in the hills. Watch for lights in the lighthouse and maybe a falling figure. And definitely make sure you wear what you're supposed to under your kilt. And we'll see you on the other side.